This is Green Street, the Environmental Health Show, greenstreetnews.org, Patti and Doug Wood, and our worldwide network of experts here every week to help you understand a bit more of what is going on in the world of environmental health and what you need to know to keep yourself and your family safe and healthy in this increasingly toxic world. Welcome back. Is it possible? Are we beginning to see some light at the end of the plastic pollution tunnel? Is the worldwide outcry over finding tiny pieces of plastic in newborn babies finally taking its toll on the seemingly invincible plastic industry? Today on Green Street, we welcome back our friend Mike Belliveau from the nonprofit organization Bend the Curve to talk about just that. So stay tuned, but first, some of the news items that caught our attention this week. Patti, what have you got for us?
Well, there's some news about plastic in our food,
Okay.
Especially ultra-processed foods.
Foods that are made in factories, basically.
Yeah. So remember, though, this article is only talking about big pieces of plastic that we can see, that are visible, okay? Not the micro and nanoplastics that we can't see.
Okay.
In 2024, a wave of high-profile food recalls linked to plastic and rubber contamination swept across North America, capturing significant media attention and garnering public scrutiny. This situation underscores the ongoing risks of plastic contamination, even with advanced safety measures in place. Throughout the year, leading brands and major retailers were forced to pull a wide range of products from store shelves, spanning various food categories, including produce, meats, dairy, bakery goods, snacks, desserts, and prepared and frozen foods. Recalls that made headlines included tomatoes, kielbasa, and sausage, dairy products like cheese and ice cream. Bakery staples like sourdough bread, cheese danishes, and cinnamon rolls were on the list of items recalled for plastic contamination, along with kid-friendly snacks and desserts, sandwich cookies, pizza nuggets, potato salad, chicken dumplings, waffles, and hummus, all recalled for plastic contamination.
Unbelievable. These are ultra-processed foods that all have pieces of plastic in them.
That's correct.
I guess from the manufacturing equipment.
Exactly. The solution is...
not to eat ultra-processed foods.
Well, no, not according to the food manufacturing industry.
Okay.
They're looking now at detectable plastics.
Detectable plastics.
These are designed for identification by metal detectors and X-ray inspection systems.
Holy cow.
They say that these new plastics will empower manufacturers to protect their production processes, meet stringent regulatory standards, and maintain consumer trust. So what they're actually wanting to do here is to put detectable fragments
in plastic
that are used in plastic and rubber.
That's right.
That is used in the processing plants.
Yeah. All the totes, all the rubber gloves, all the eyeglasses, everything everybody wears, all the conveyor belts.
Everything, the sifters, you name it.
Everything is going to have these additional chemicals and things put in them so that they can find the fragments.
When you say chemicals, they're actually going to use dyes, which are more detectable as well.
Who knows what they're going to... if it shows up on an X-ray...
This is crazy.
This is the ultra-processed world, Patti. This is the food that you see in the supermarket.
I know.
That gets recalled.
I know.
All right, from the World Resources Institute, a report about geothermal. Building a clean, reliable, cost-effective power grid will require many different types of energy. While some will come from solar and wind, we'll need clean baseline power. That's power that's always available when needed. Many energy experts now see enhanced geothermal as especially promising thanks to recent innovations. New geothermal technologies in development today, called enhanced geothermal, are already playing an important role in achieving zero-carbon energy grid affordably and reliably. Conventional geothermal involves drilling into natural underground hot water reservoirs to access the Earth's heat, which then turns steam turbines that generate electricity. By contrast, enhanced geothermal doesn't require natural underground reservoirs. All it requires is the heat of the Earth, which could be available nearly everywhere with the right technologies, which means it has the potential to unlock massive amounts of clean energy around the world. We've covered some of these stories here on Green Street, but what struck me the other day was the growing battle in New York and elsewhere about bringing back nuclear power. Nuclear power is old technology. It's dangerous. It's extremely expensive. It takes forever to get nuclear plants built and operating, and it requires mining for uranium, which is highly polluting, and it produces radioactive waste that no one knows what to do with for the next 200,000 years. So compared to nuclear power, enhanced geothermal, or EGT, is much cheaper, faster to build, takes less land, produces no toxic waste, requires no hazardous mining operations, and can be put almost anywhere. A free source of infinitely renewable energy. So attention to all of you who are part of the movement to push back against Governor Hochul and her plans to renuclearize New York State. Let's be part of something better and smarter. Let's put our energy behind promoting enhanced geothermal instead of nuclear. I have a short 5-minute video on our website that you might want to take a look at greenstreetnews.org. If you click on today's show, you'll see it. It's Stanford professor Mark Jacobson talking about why nuclear is such a bad idea. And in the last minute or so, he talks about enhanced geothermal. Absolutely an idea whose time has come, again, on greenstreetnews.org.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting.
It's very exciting to have a safe alternative.
Yeah. All right. What else you got?
Well, this is from Yale University. With hundreds of satellites launched each year and tens of thousands more planned, scientists are increasingly concerned about emissions from the fuels burned when rockets are launched and the pollutants released when satellites and rocket stages flame out upon re-entry. Both of these processes are producing pollutants that are being injected into just about every layer of the atmosphere. To understand the scope of the problem, it's important to keep in mind that commercial satellites like those from Starlink don't stay up in the sky indefinitely. With a lifetime usefulness of about 5 years, they are regularly deorbited and replaced by new ones.
Deorbited?
Deorbited. That's what they call it.
Never heard that before.
The satellite business thus has a cyclical quality: launch, deploy, deorbit, destroy, and then repeat that cycle again.
So these things burn up on the way in. That's what we're talking about, right?
Yep. This suggests that we are using Earth's mesosphere and stratosphere, the layers above the surface-hugging troposphere, as an incinerator dump for space machinery. Jonathan McDowell, a scientist at Harvard and the Smithsonian who has been tracking space launches for several decades, put it this way, quote, "We are now in this regime where we are doing something new to the atmosphere that hasn't been done before. As a result, we're unsure what the impacts may be to Earth's weather, climate, and ultimately, its inhabitants," end quote. Wow. In 2025, SpaceX had 152 rocket launches, an annual record for the company. And while SpaceX is the undisputed leader in launches, the space satellite race now ranges far beyond American endeavors to new military, scientific, and corporate ventures originating from Europe, China, Russia, India, Israel, Japan, and South Korea.
Wow.
Right now, there are some 15,000 satellites in orbit around our Earth.
15,000 satellites. Wow. It's getting crowded up there. You know, one day there's going to be a collision between a couple, and it's going to set off
I think there already have been.
Because once you knock them out of orbit,
yeah.
they could be going anywhere. You could have a, massive...
Yeah, they're very concerned about that, and it does happen.
All right. Thanks, Patti.
You're welcome. Day after day, week after week, and year after year, the plastic industry has grown larger and larger, producing more and more of its miracle material that has found its way into every aspect of our lives, to the point where most people can't even conceive of a glass soda bottle or a garbage can without a white plastic liner. Look around you and imagine taking away everything made from plastic. It's inconceivable.
But maybe, just maybe, we're beginning to see a change in the world, a measurable decline in the use of plastic that portends a better future for us all. At least, that's how Mike Belliveau sees it, and he should know. An MIT graduate with a degree in environmental science, Mike is a public policy expert and social entrepreneur who has been recognized nationally for promoting environmental public health and green chemistry. Recently, Mike penned an article talking about reaching peak plastic, essentially the saturation point from which the use of plastic will slowly decline. So I had to ask him, are we winning the war on plastic? Here's our interview with Mike Belliveau.
I think we're actually beginning to win the war on plastic pollution. The chemical industry actually reported quietly that production of plastics in North America declined in 2025 by 0.3%. And that's despite a growth in the economy by conventional measures of 2%. So demand is down, which is good. And there's other signs of progress as well. It's true, we need a global plastics treaty that mandates cut in production of plastics and the toxicity of plastics. But it's already beginning to happen where, for example, polystyrene plastic, which we all hate, whether it's styrofoam or
Right.
the plastic clamshells, production in North America has declined by 25% in the last 13 years.
A lot of that's driven by consumer demand, right?
Consumer demand and local bans on its use
Yeah.
and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, 12 states have enacted bans on styrofoam takeout containers and coffee cups,
Hmm.
and another 250 municipalities in another dozen states have done the same. So roughly almost half the American population now is benefiting from this local and state policy making to phase out the styrofoam takeout containers.
That's
But
right.
also
Right.
corporate policies are making a difference. That a lot of the downstream brands, they are consumer sensitive and they have adopted policies to eliminate packaging unless it's recyclable and compostable or reusable. And material like polystyrene is none of those.
Yeah.
So they're getting out of it.
The industry, Mike, is saying that things are great and there's going to be all this demand in the future. And it was completely the opposite of your piece. What's going
Yeah,
on?
globally.
Are they just in the habit of lying to people?
Oh, yes. Yeah, the industry lies all the time, routinely, or puts spin on things. But globally, if you read the industry trade press, they're freaked out because demand is crashing and they've overbuilt capacity. There's now a global glut in petrochemicals used to make plastics and plastics themselves. So the companies are actually the big petrochemical producers and plastic producers are losing money because there's too much capacity to produce
Hmm.
and not enough demand. And the operating rates, the capacity of the plants that are producing this stuff is operating at 60%, 70% of their rated capacity. They need to be operating at 80 to 90% to make money. We're seeing a lot of plant closures around the world because of that.
Really?
I was reading, dipping into your article a little bit, and you talked about the types of chemicals that the plastics industry relies on, like benzenes and so on. And
Yes.
so, if the production is slowing, where are they going to go with all their leftover chemicals? Sell them to some other industry, or dump them illegally, or what happens?
No, it's a concern, and there's still, I don't want to oversell our progress. There's still quite a bit to do. But, take benzene, for example. It's a known human cancer-causing substance linked to leukemia, and it's produced by oil refineries, and 85% of it is used to make plastics. So
Wow.
and 30% of benzene actually goes to polystyrene plastic. It's the largest end use. So as those uses go away, it does raise the question, what is the industry going to do? Big oil is already banking on making more petrochemicals and plastics as their solution to declining demand for fossil fuels.
Right.
Right. For energy and transportation.
Yeah, as
Yes.
transportation is electrified as it needs to be, and electricity generation is converted to solar and wind and with battery storage as it needs to be, that huge market goes away. So if you read ExxonMobil Chemical Corporation or ExxonMobil Corporation's annual reports, they're placing their big bet on plastics. Yet they're running into this problem where there's a global glut in plastics production. The US industry used to bank on exporting our plastic crap to China, but
That
China
is,
says, "No, we're going to make our own."
yeah.
And that market went away. And
Yeah.
the industry's in crisis. And for us, the old, I forget the Chinese character, but the one that means both crisis and opportunity, it does create an opportunity. If we keep reducing demand, the industry is going to have to keep closing these old, dirty plants that cost too much to operate. And we can begin to transform the whole sector to safer and more sustainable production of materials that are climate friendly and safe for people and the planet. So I think we have some opportunity in front of us.
Where is our opportunity the greatest from your view? Where are the places that we're failing as society to really clamp down on plastic that we could do more?
Well, there's the easier things to do, which we should do, and then there are the ones that have a bigger impact in terms of volume or toxicity. Clearly, single-use plastic packaging is terribly wasteful, defies common sense and uses a lot of material. Right now, probably about 15% of all plastics go into single-use disposable packaging for food and beverages. So we can eliminate that. In fact, there's a new report out by Pew called Breaking the Plastic Wave 2025, came out last month, and they did very sophisticated analysis and modeling. They concluded that outright we could eliminate 19% of all plastic use that quickly becomes waste. That's not substituting with safer materials. That's just getting rid of
Wow.
unnecessary use. An example of that is I recently discovered a new brand of tempeh, that wonderful fermented
Yeah.
soy protein food put out by a company called Tootie's Tempeh out of Biddeford, Maine. They reduced their plastic packaging by 50%. They figured out that they no longer needed to ferment the soybeans in plastic like most tempeh producers do. So that's an example. They also sell in New York and New Jersey as well as New England, but they're a small company. But that's just one example of many, many companies that are looking for ways of reducing their total use of plastic, even if they can't eliminate it entirely right off the bat. So there's a lot of potential there that's still untapped to just eliminate unnecessary uses off the top before we even get into talking about substitute materials or reuse refill systems that can replace other single use.
This seems to be very problematic, not just from the plastics perspective, but also from a health perspective, because you're talking about using this, 15% of it is used in the food and drink world. Okay. The rest of single-use packaging is laundry detergents and personal care products and everything else that comes
Consumer goods, yes.
Consumer goods. So where are we with, plastic in that kind of?
Yeah, there's still a lot to do. Again, we're beginning to see reductions. Policies enacted in Europe, for example, already on the books are projected to eliminate 5 to 10% of all packaging-related plastics right off. And then we have these corporate policies. One campaign that we're teeing up is to go after the polystyrene foam block packaging of consumer goods. So when you buy your KitchenAid stand mixer or
we get it. Yep.
Or your favorite kitchen gadget, you open the box, you don't know, how it's packed. You open the corrugated cardboard box and it's packed in styrofoam. And there's nothing you can do with it. It doesn't even fit in your kitchen trash can, and it can't practicably be recycled. And it takes 3 cancer-causing chemicals to make it in the first place, and it has climate impacts and so forth. So we're teeing up a campaign to persuade the large appliance makers and then eventually electronics and other consumer goods makers to eliminate the use of polystyrene foam block packaging. There are safer alternatives already on the market.
That's right. They make
Craft paper, corrugated cardboard. There's even a bio-based foam made out of food processing waste by a company called Cruise Foam in California that is compostable in your backyard compost. So there are many alternatives. It's universally recognized as problematic and unnecessary. It's one of the root causes of environmental injustice. So it just needs to be eliminated. And it's hard for a local ordinance or a state law to ban polystyrene foam block packaging because it's in interstate commerce in goods that are shipped. But we can persuade the brand owners like Whirlpool Corporation, which owns the KitchenAid brand, and other companies that own these brands to get out. So we're going to be launching a campaign this year to do that. And it can be done, for example, to another company's credit, the Home Depot, the world's 5th largest retailer, in the last 6 years has eliminated 15 million cubic feet of polystyrene foam block packaging in its private label products. And that's a huge gain. And they're committed to completely eliminating packaging that's not recyclable or compostable. They still have a lot left to do, and they still sell other name brand products that aren't subject to their own policy, but they're making headway showing it can be done.
That's great. And of course, consumers are driving a lot of this demand. And I wish people would be more vocal when they see stuff that's not right? I mean, it's.
Yeah, I mean, we're all buying stuff all the time, even if it's just, groceries and personal care products. And we all have our own favorite brands. In every product you buy, typically, if you look in the fine print, there's a company name, there's a company phone number, sometimes there's a company email or web address. We should be contacting those companies and asking them, what are they doing to eliminate the use of plastics? It's hard. I mean, even when we are loyal customers of our farmers markets or community supported agriculture, it's hard to go completely without buying goods that are, some of which are packaged in plastic. It's extremely difficult. And so we know if those products have plastic packaging or in the product itself. So consumers should be writing, calling, and emailing those companies saying, when are you going to eliminate the use of this plastic? It's having a terrible effect on public health and the health of the planet. And companies will respond ultimately.
Mhm.
It doesn't take a lot of customer feedback for those companies to get the message. In fact, a lot of them are already ready to switch, but are just holding back to conserve pennies and dollars,
Yeah.
waiting
Right.
for someone to order them to do it by law.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we, the consumers, should be ordering them to do it.
Right.
Exactly.
So tell me how much of a difference this would make. We're trying to get this program going where school districts do two things. And this is driven by the kids, driven by the students themselves. One is to take out the vending machines that sell plastic water bottles.
Yeah.
That's number one. And then number two is to get them into a little bit more activism, and that is to get their school district to put on their purchase orders. And every school district in the country is buying tons of stuff, right, for a school district, from paper to, whatever. I mean, they just buy a ton of stuff. To eliminate the use of plastic packing materials, not packaging. There's a difference between packing and packaging. That's your bubble wrap, that's your, styrofoam peanuts, whatever. I mean, there's styrofoam sheeting, there's all kinds of things that are out there. And so then it would make the district put on their purchase orders, actually, that, we prioritize receiving our shipments in biodegradable packing materials, non-plastic biodegradable packing materials.
Yeah, I think those are fantastic initiatives, and there's no single solution to the plastic pollution crisis. We need many, many steps taken by many, many different actors. A lot of potential in every sector, including in education and school facilities. I know there's a major initiative underway also to replace the plastic food trays and dishware
And cafeterias,
in
yeah.
school cafeteria with stainless steel that can be washed and reused
Yeah,
repeatedly.
but schools have gotten rid of all their washing machines, all their
I know.
dishwashers.
I know we need to.
They don't have them anymore. It's like
They
crazy.
got to buy them again.
Yeah, we need to reinvest in infrastructure and as well as labor to do this good work. I think one of the most senseless uses of plastic is the packaging of water. I mean,
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about that?
well, about half of the plastic beverage bottles in circulation are for bottled water. And every plastic bottle spews cancer-causing chemicals at the point of production in the Gulf Coast and southeast of the United States, and creates terrible waste, even though the plastic bottle is perhaps the most recyclable plastic item. In the US, only 30% are collected, and only a third of those ever get turned back into bottles or other, high order reusable or recyclable material. So we can't recycle our way out of the problem. And I think reusable water bottles are so available. Tap water is often higher quality than bottled water anyways. And we just need to take every opportunity to eliminate the dependence on bottled water. And if schools can do that by getting them out of vending machines, I think that's a very positive step.
Mike, you're forecasting, or maybe forecasting is too strong a word. You're hoping for peak plastic to come along in the next 2 years and for us to begin this decline. How do you see the oil companies responding to this? Because they've got this mandate to make profit.
Yes.
What are the hurdles we have to jump over as far as?
Well, they're going to be dragged into the future kicking and screaming. The industry is not going to transform itself. Consumers, brand owners, and policymakers, unfortunately, bear the burden of transforming the oil and gas and petrochemical plastics industries. They're not going to give up market very willingly. We'll never convince ExxonMobil or Dow Chemical to voluntarily reduce their production of plastics, but we can persuade their customers to stop using plastics. and therein lies, our leverage. So, the smarter companies will invest in more sustainable materials, in renewable carbon sources rather than fossil carbon, in safer chemistry rather than highly toxic chemistry that goes into some of these plastics. And there are signs within the chemical industry that, some segments, some innovative startup companies and some segments of large companies are investing in green chemistry and sustainable chemistry, but they're not being allowed to advance quickly. The initial cost of those alternatives is higher because the petrochemical industry's had 100 years plus to build huge facilities, to get economies of scale, optimization. They still, suck huge subsidies off of taxpayers. So there's the incumbents, the oil and chemical industry, depending on fossil carbon, it has an undue advantage.
Sure.
But through a combination of, public policy, incentives and subsidies for safer, more sustainable materials, brand owners specifying that they want to use the least toxic, least climate impactful material and only the amount that's truly necessary, and consumers and activists continuing to press will change the market, but there will continue to be resistance. It won't happen easily.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about Bend the Curve. I'm very curious to know a little bit more about the organization and what your kind of overall approach is.
Sure. Yeah, Bend the Curve is a nonprofit startup. We're a research institute that promotes safer alternatives to petrochemicals and plastics. Our aim is to transform the petrochemical plastics industry so that it no longer harms people and the planet. And it's a continuation of the work that I've done all my career and kind of a return a little bit to my roots. I started working years ago in the San Francisco Bay Area where oil refineries and chemical plants were having severe impacts on human health and causing environmental injustice. And now I'm returning to that root cause, the production of these materials, and providing technical assistance to groups in Louisiana and Texas that are working to stop the expansion of the petrochemical industry. There's a brand new overview and data visualization published by Public Health Watch about the industry in Texas. I would recommend people read and review. It's very compelling storytelling and visualization of the scope and scale of the petrochemical challenge in Texas, for example. But I'm also doing thought leadership and writing and working to identify the strategic vulnerabilities in the petrochemical plastics sector that we can leverage to bring about these changes, and partnering with groups around the country and internationally, to bring about these changes. So I'm very excited about this turn in my work, and partnering with a lot of other people so we can have a collective impact and having a lot of fun. And I'm optimistic that we can turn the tide and bend the curve down in all these hazardous production of materials and bend the curve up, for health and climate and justice.
Mike Belliveau, founder and executive director of Bend the Curve, talking about winning the war on plastic. You can learn more about Mike and read his article about peak plastic on our show website, greenstreetnews.org. That's going to do it for our show today. Special thanks to Mike Belliveau and all of you who listen to and support this show. Patti and I will be back next week with another edition of Green Street. Thanks for listening.